From blood-curdling books to horror movies, tales that strike terror into our hearts have been entertaining us for as long as humans have been telling stories. Come with us now on a journey across Europe, from Germany to Romania to Loch Ness in Scotland, as we investigate the legends we love and find out why we're so captivated by some of the scariest places in our incredible world. There are places whose very name reverberates with larger-than-life legends and characters. This road winds through one of those places, Transylvania. The name means land beyond the forest, a mountainous region of Eastern Europe. But what it means to most of us is the blood-soaked story of Dracula. The Vampire Count. Little wonder that in Transylvania, even the graveyards seem more eerie. And my Transylvanian guide, Bogdan Popper, is well versed.
It's a piece of superstition that if you have a damaged grave like this one, someone or something may pop out of it.
You say that it's just superstition, and yet they found bodies with stakes through the heart.
Yes, actually it's a proof that superstitions are very strong.
Even Romans feared monsters in this region, yet it was in the 19th century, the era of science, that Bram Stoker dreamed up a tale of terror, telling of a traveller arriving in a mysterious castle in Transylvania. I know what you're thinking. Don't go up there. And high on this ragged mountain, the very castle where Bram Stoker imagined Dracula lived. With its sheer stone stairways, dark panelled rooms, there's even a secret passageway. It's the perfect setting to meet the Vampire Count.
I am Dracula. I bid you welcome.
They say truth can be stranger than fiction, scarier and bloodier too. Close to the castle, back in the 15th century, lived a warlord so infamous he had many names. Vlad III, also Vlad the Impaler, and Vlad Dracula.
The meaning of the name Dracul in Romania, it's the devil. Dracula, it's the devil's son.
Historian Matteo Simmon says Vlad was a bloodthirsty killer. He impaled his enemies.
The Impaler was a nickname that came later with the brutal habit that...
Matteo's description of impaling, so how can I put it, vivid, you really don't want to hear it.
Would you like to know more?
Not really, no.
500 years later, the King family from Michigan feels safe. In the day, anyway. Is it scary here? But at night, according to the story, Dracula goes in search of innocent victims. Sunrise. Thank goodness for that. And this morning, we arrive at the medieval town of Sighișoara. So this is where Dracula was born?
Yes, he was born in this house. This is where his father used to live. He's born here in 1431.
He looks fierce. And though he was a ruthless ruler, someone's left flowers here.
He's hugely popular in Romania for being, you know, this kind of cruel but fair ruler. Everyone loves him.
Many modern Romanians romanticize Vlad's cold-bloodedness. Vlad the Impaler, Dracula, is their preferred politician.
I think everyone would answer with an yes here in Romania.
Makes you think, doesn't it, about the true nature of politics and our fascination with brutality and barbarism. It's tomato juice. We're on the road again, on the trail of another fantastic creature that has haunted people's imagination for hundreds of years.
Frankenstein. The most dreaded creation of man, the monster of Frankenstein's.
Our first stop on the Frankenstein Trail, Switzerland, and the spectacular setting of Lake Geneva. It was here 200 years ago, at the Villa Diodati, one rainy night that teenager Mary Shelley dreamed up her tale of terror. It tells of how Victor Frankenstein, using dead bodies stolen from graveyards, created a man.
It's alive.
And brought it back to life.
It's alive! It's alive!
And Frankenstein, it seems, like Dracula, may have had a ring of truth. Because shortly before Mary Shelley wrote her book, she had been travelling through Germany, where a remote village has a dark history. Can anyone tell me the way to Castle Frankenstein? By the time I reach the castle, it is nightfall. Yeah, can I come in?
Welcome to Castle Frankenstein.
Walter Sheila has spent 30 years researching this decaying castle.
This is the area Mary Shelly looked around. She was here.
It was once home to a noble family. So these are the Frankensteins.
These are the Frankenstein families, and these are their tombstones you see here.
And one of them was a real-life mad scientist. So this is him.
This is Johann Conrad Dickel von Frankenstein. He's the real father of the monster.
This is the guy that Mary Shelley was writing about.
This is the guy from whom Mary Shelley knew the story of the monster.
The real Frankenstein.
The real Frankenstein.
This Frankenstein experimented on bodies dug up from a nearby cemetery.
He made his experiments with the parts of the bodies and with electricity. And this tower was the place where the flashes of lightning threw in and gave electricity to the bodies.
To make them come alive?
Like in the movie.
Unlike in those classic Universal movies, no Frankenstein's monster was ever brought to life. There was no walking dead terrorizing the village. But
a lot of people who live around here, and they say this is a very bad place to stay during the nights. The devil is playing his fools. I don't know, I've never seen him.
You've never seen the devil?
No, never.
I'm glad I'm with you.
Yeah, maybe I'm the devil for them. Good night, my friend.
Frankenstein and Dracula, men who became monsters. Why do we find them so fascinating? Our next monster is not human at all, and for that we have to go to a certain lake in Scotland. Scotland, on the road north to the rugged Highlands, a country of breathtaking landscapes, ancient castles and lakes the Scots call lochs. So this is Loch Ness. This vast loch easily lends itself to legend. A monster? Really? Here at Loch Ness, there have been hundreds of so-called sightings describing a huge and mysterious creature.
Up behind us here, a little bit up the loch, 20 odd years ago, sitting beside the loch in my car, and I saw this black hump come out of the water, and I've no idea to this day what it was.
He saw an object which he described as like an upturned boat. It turned, went against the headwind and disappeared. There were 9 witnesses.
Ancient Celtic legend tells of a beast in the water, and there is a record of an apparent encounter here 1,000 years ago. But it was during the 1930s that the beast was given a name, the Loch Ness Monster, or more affectionately, Nessie. All over the loch, eyewitnesses described seeing a creature some claimed looked like a prehistoric reptile called a plesiosaur, both in and out of the water. And in one infamous sighting. A couple driving on this road saw a huge creature, maybe 30 feet long, slither in front of them and plunge into the loch. So to understand the lure of the loch, begin with a man who has lived on the shore in a van for almost 30 years.
There's a majesty about this place. There's an energy that pours off of here. There's a palpable feeling of, well, it's legend.
Steve Feltham scans the surface every day for hours at a time. He too says he has seen the monster.
It was like a torpedo going through the water, the size of a car going through there.
But does Steve think Nessie is a plesiosaur?
Nessie could still turn out to be a dinosaur, but at the moment I see it more likely to turn out to be something like a Wells catfish, the biggest freshwater fish in the world. It grows to about 4 or 5 metres long. They live for 100 years. It's got a smooth back, which is what people describe here. The hump, the upturned boat type hump going through the water.
How you doing? How are you?
Good, yeah? Hi, nice to meet you.
For decades, enthusiasts and even scientists have been searching for facts in this Loch Ness fiction. Skipper Dick Rayner has been investigating the mystery of Loch Ness for 50 years.
The thing we were looking for was between 20 and 40 feet long.
40 feet long?
Yeah.
I think we're going to need a bigger boat. If there is a creature hiding here, Dick says sonar should be the best way to track it down.
We're over the deepest part now.
Wow.
745 feet.
What is that? About halfway down. What is that? It's not an enormous monster appearing on our sonar right there.
I don't think so.
Are you sure? Because that looks pretty... Look at that. Over the years, teams of Nessie hunters have used sonar and submarines to search the dark waters of Loch Ness. But the only monster they ever found was this 30-foot Nessie movie prop that sank 50 years ago.
Definite fake.
Right.
3 hay bales covered in tarpaulins.
The evidence against there being a monster here has been stacking up. Most of the photos of Nessie are hoaxes.
He towed a nice bit of fiberglass behind his boat, but this is the famous one, the iconic picture of Loch Ness.
Yes, right.
But what people think now is that it's actually this little thing. It's a submarine with a plasticine monster's head on top of it.
The last best hope of finding some truth here is perhaps the most bizarrely counterintuitive project of them all. They've been looking for the mythical monster in microscopic particles.
That deceptively clear-looking water actually contains an abundance of light.
An international Gemmell from New Zealand is cracking the Loch Ness code using environmental or eDNA.
So what we're getting is a snapshot of life in Loch Ness over the last few days. We've got bacteria in there, we've got microorganisms in there. We've also got traces of larger animals, fish, and perhaps there's something mysterious in there too that hasn't been described by science. Who knows?
You've got quite a bit out of the northern basin.
Mm-hmm. With the help of a local naturalist, Adrian Shine, who has studied Loch Ness for more than 40 years, the scientists took hundreds of water samples from all over the loch. Back at his university in New Zealand, the samples were analysed by Professor Gemmell and by several other labs around the world. Their results cross-referenced with a gigantic DNA database, producing a complete picture of everything that lives in Loch Ness.
All right, well, thank you.
A year after we first met him, Professor Gemmell was ready to announce his dramatic findings to the world.
Let's get down to it. Is there a plesiosaur in Loch Ness? No.
No trace then, he says, of an ancient dinosaur lurking in the loch. No giant catfish DNA either. But, says Professor Gemmell, there is one possibility that may explain all those eyewitness sightings here. Could Nessie be a giant eel?
There is large amounts of eel DNA in Loch Ness. Now, is it possible that what people are seeing is a giant eel? Well, maybe. It's plausible that there might be one or two that grow to extreme size.
So, case closed? Well, of course, you cannot know what you don't know. So the mystery of Loch Ness will surely endure, ensuring that the tourists keep coming back.
We came to find the monster, and we did. You know, we did.
We've got a sighting here. It might be a giant eel.
I don't think so.
No?
Eels don't have legs.
And it is perhaps the mystery, not the monster, that people cannot turn away from, even in this 21st century, which reflects more on all of us than what's in this loch.
Lakes are, in a sense, lost worlds, and especially Loch Ness. It's deep, it's dark, it's cold, it's hostile, and it's big. So it gives us the lost world element, but it is also accessible. And I think it's that combination of mystery and accessibility which has given Loch Ness the cachet which it has.
It would be a shame, wouldn't it, in a way, if computers and DNA science took away the mystery?
Well, you never would, you see, because as long as people want to believe in Loch Ness monsters, there'll be Loch Ness monsters.
When you are here at dusk, looking out over these dark waters, it's easy to understand why people once feared something lurking beneath. And maybe, even today, we need to believe in monsters and evil so we get to be the good guys. Or perhaps we just like to be scared.